In this video, we're going to talk about domain expansions and how they work, counters to them, and we're going to go through each domain we've seen up to this point in the Jujutsu Kaisen anime. So there will be no manga spoilers. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more anime content, and let's get into it. Alright, so first off, what is a domain expansion? A domain expansion is an environment constructed with cursed energy and manifested through a cursed technique. These domain expansions typically create a barrier around the user and its target that is inescapable but can be broken into from the outside. There are exceptions to this rule, but we'll talk about that later. Since it's manifested using a cursed technique, that's why you don't see people like Yuji using them, because he doesn't even have an innate cursed technique. Domain expansions use a ton of cursed energy, but they're pretty overpowered for the user. Cursed techniques deployed by the user in their domain expansion, for example Megumi's Divine Dog attack while in his domain expansion, are guaranteed hits, and these attacks are much more powerful within their own domain. This is why we see Nanami struggling so much against Mahito when inside Mahito's new domain. We also see Megumi's Divine Dog attack basically one-shot the Finger Bearer when he uses his domain for the first time as well. So, how do Jujutsu practitioners counter these domain expansions? The only way for every single Jujutsu practitioner to counter a domain expansion is by neutralizing the caster's guaranteed hits by unleashing a blast of their own cursed energy, but it has to be powerful enough to counter the user's cursed technique that they're using, and so it's pretty difficult to do this. Many sorcerers have to resort to this second option, which is expanding their own domain, even if it's not a complete domain, and basically what happens is the stronger of the domains wins. We see this happen when Gojo fights Jogo. Gojo unleashes his unlimited void domain while inside Jogo's own domain, and Gojo wins. Obviously, we see him completely demolish Jogo. So that's how that works. Because domain expansions create a barrier around the target, they're virtually impossible to escape, but others can break in from the outside. This is often the only way that some sorcerers escape these domain expansions. We see this happen when Yuji enters Mahito's domain to save Nanami, and they kind of got lucky there because Mahito ended up touching Sukuna's soul, but we'll talk about that later. Dubbed the domain for the weak, the simple domain is another counter to a domain expansion. It's basically a weaker generalized version of a domain expansion that a more average sorcerer can use as either a counter to a domain expansion and its guaranteed hit, or as an offensive move, as we see Useless Miwa use in her fight against Maki during the Goodwill event. The Falling Blossom technique is another anti-domain expansion technique similar to the simple domain that we see the Zenin family use later on, but I won't spoil that for my anime onlys here. Let's just mention it and move on. Now let's talk about each domain expansion we've seen so far in the anime. Stick around till the end and we're gonna rank these by strength. Alright, first we have Sukuna using the Malevolent Shrine domain expansion. The Malevolent Shrine is basically a demonic Buddhist inspired shrine with Sukuna among piles of bones. It's visually stunning and pretty much awesome to look at. I think we were all amazed whenever we saw this for the first time in the anime. Fun fact about this, it doesn't create its own space with a barrier. Here's one of the exceptions we talked about. Sukuna uses a binding vow so that there is an escape route for the victim, but in exchange, it has a guaranteed hit radius of about 200 meters. This is a huge area and something only Sukuna would pull off. Sukuna uses his cleave and dismantle attacks while in this for guaranteed hits, and we all know how powerful he is, so we see him utterly annihilate the Finger Bearer, and we know that this technique is just extraordinarily powerful. Next, let's talk about Gojo's Unlimited Void domain expansion. Gojo creates a completely empty void of space that sends the victim a barrage of unlimited information that overwhelms their mind. It is reinforced with a barrier, unlike Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine. When Gojo is using this, Jogo claims he couldn't see or feel anything, but at the same time he could see and feel everything. The information has no end, and because of this he's completely incapacitated. The victim dies slowly while in the confines of the domain. Gojo and whoever he's in physical contact with, as we see Yuji touching him, are the only people unaffected by this domain, and we find out that humans are affected much more harshly than cursed spirits by the domain. So whereas Jogo was able to stand for a little while in it, a human would have perished almost instantly. It's only natural we'd mention Jogo's Coffin of the Iron Mountain domain expansion next. He creates a barrier encapsulating a space of a volcanic chamber with incredible innate heat and magma and lava flowing everywhere. He claims it would burn up normal sorcerers upon entry, but Gojo and Itadori are pretty much everything but normal sorcerers. Like any other domain, it allows all of Jogo's attacks to hit, so his fiery attacks would instantly hit if he wasn't fighting than Gojo. It's much weaker than the Unlimited Void. As we see, we don't get to see it shine because he's literally facing the strongest sorcerer in the series. Next, let's talk about Mahito's self-embodiment of perfection domain. We see him develop this on the spot during his battle with Nanami. It's a black, dark environment with huge hands gripped together. The arms grab each other and form a virtually inescapable net of hands that grab at their target's soul. With Mahito's idle transfiguration technique, this allows him to bend and warp the victim's soul and body, and his victory is almost guaranteed within the domain. Nanami would probably have died if it weren't for Yuji's interruption. This is a powerful domain, but we don't really get to see it shine yet. Next, let's talk about our boy Megumi's Chimera Shadow Garden domain expansion. Now, this is not a complete domain yet, but it's still useful. It swamps the area with many thick shadows, allowing him to summon several Shikigami at a time. It enhances the power of these Shikigami like any domain expansion, enhances the curse technique, and we see his divine dog get a power boost the first time he uses this technique in order to kill the finger bearer. Finally, let's talk about Dagon's Horizon of the Captivating Skanda. I don't even know if the name's revealed yet in the anime, but that's what it's called. It's a calm domain. It's literally just a beachside paradise with scattered palm trees. That's all we see in the anime so far. It's pretty much just where the other cursed spirits go to chill. Let's quickly rank these domain expansions that we've seen so far. First is Gojo's Unlimited Void. I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. He easily overpowers Jogo's domain. It's insanely powerful, and like any other domain, it's strengthened by its sorcerer. Gojo's the most powerful sorcerer in the series, so it's pretty straightforward as to why this is the #1 domain expansion. At number 2, we got Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine. He uses this to instantly demolish the finger bearer in episode 4 of the anime. We don't get to see it practically used yet, but also factoring in the innate strength of the caster, Malevolent Shrine should easily be the second most powerful domain in the series so far, with Sukuna's insane power. Third, I've got Mahito's self-embodiment of perfection. He's still new to using it, but without Yuji's interruption from outside the barrier of his domain, Mahito would have easily been able to kill Nanami, I think. His soul manipulation technique is just too powerful for humans to stand up to. Nanami kinda got bailed out. That's the only reason Mahito did not kill him. At fourth, I've got Jogo's Coffin of the Iron Mountain domain. Although it's utterly overpowered by Gojo's Unlimited Void, we see that his domain was actually very powerful, and any other sorcerer would likely burn up and perish within its confines. Unlucky for Jogo, Gojo just happens to have the strongest domain expansion we've seen so far in the series. Feels bad, man. At fifth, we've got Megumi's Chimera Shadow Garden. It's still incomplete, but Megumi's able to use this to win a seemingly lost battle against the finger bearer during the death painting arc. The only reason I rank this above Dagon's is because in the anime, we just see Dagon's domain to be the calm paradise for the cursed spirits to chill at in their free time, so it's gonna come in at number 6. Now, I do expect Dagon's domain to increase in rank here during the upcoming arcs. The Shibuya Incident arc really lets Dagon shine. Let me know down below what arc you are looking forward to the most from the manga. I think the anime adaptation of the Shibuya Incident will be absolutely insane, so that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Hope you've enjoyed this explanation of domain expansions in Jujutsu Kaisen. Check out my playlist linked on screen or down below for more. Drop a like and comment down below, and subscribe for more. I'll catch you next time. Peace.